Trevor Koolmees, thank you so much for joining us today for another Machine Heads interview. How you doing today, man?
Doing great, Wayne. Doing great. How are you doing?
Good. Can't complain. I'm excited to talk a little bit to you about these small articulated loaders, or as they are known at Vermeer, compact articulated loaders. You guys have a nice and tidy four machine lineup that we're going to talk a little bit about. But to get started with, you are the product group sales manager. So you're going to have all kinds of insights for us on kind of like demand for these machines and kind of how they fit into the market. So we're stoked to get started. But let's start off by talking about some of the market dynamics a little bit. With everybody that we've kind of talked to, this is kind of what I've started with, just because I think that with it's it's a it's a little bit, we were talking about before we started recording, kind of like the mini track loaders or the stand-on track loaders. Like those have been around for like a while, and they're like established machines in terms of that category. However, they've seen a lot of momentum and growth recently. Similarly, these are smaller articulated loaders. They've been around for a while, but they've been more kind of popular maybe in Europe rather than over here. But it's another like compact machine that is finding more and more uses that contractors and utility contractors and landscapers and tree care professionals and everybody they're finding new kind of like uses for these machines, or ways that they can replace a skid steer or CTL or a larger machine with one of these. So I just wanted to start with a question about the market for these machines here in North America. Demand is
Mm-hmm.
growing. It's traditionally been a favorite in the European market. What, from Vermeer's perspective, has really led to that kind of growth and interest here? And why did you guys kind of see an opportunity with this machine to have a lineup of your own?
Yeah, great questions, Wayne. And clearly, you have a good grasp on the compact articulating loader market. You kind of hinted at it there on where it came from and what its trajectory is. And so it's really, you look back 10 years in the past and where the mini track loader market was, we really see a lot of similarities to where the compact articulating loader lineup is today. Customers, whether they are coming from a mini track loader or even, full-size skid steers, they're looking for solutions in the tree care space, landscape space, as well as, general construction to get into compact areas, not disturb, the ground. They do a great job of not tearing up, manicured lawns or nicely landscaped yards, while also performing, the same or similar tasks to a full-size loader or what a mini track loader is capable of. Vermeer is a total solutions provider in the tree care space as well as a landscaping space. So we view this as a natural addition to our lineup of brush chippers, stump cutters, as well as those mini track loaders that you talked a little about before.
What have you guys kind of learned about the North American customer? And maybe what are some of the things that and the ways that they're interested in using this machine, or the specific features of these machines? What do they kind of like? What is your customer base? What have you learned from them in terms of like what they find the most appealing about this machine category?
Yeah, so I think that we've learned that customers really appreciate how dynamic these machines are. It really is a multi-tool. It's got a universal attachment plate on the front, and it can really do a number of different jobs, right? So it has the capability of doing, like trenching jobs, dirt moving, material handling. I mentioned earlier, tree and landscape specific jobs, right? So it's really a tool that can go across a lot of different types of job sites, can perform a large number of tasks while, like I mentioned, not disturbing the ground. And compact articulating loaders are unique in that they have a very, very good, specifically our lineup, really has a very good lift to weight ratio. So the machines are also relatively light compared to how much they can lift. So when you think about, a landscape customer who might be hauling a number of different pieces of equipment on their trailer, that's something that, they want to be conscientious of, is the different packages of equipment that they need to move from job site to job site.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that. The lift to weight ratio being high. Yeah, in terms of kind of this was kind of like something I was going to ask a little bit later, but yeah, could you give us a little bit like an idea, a little bit of like what it's like trailering these machines, I guess, in comparison to like a larger machine like a skid steer or a CTL? Like what are you looking at in terms of like, instead of carrying one of those around, what you're getting when you carry one of these around?
Yeah, so I mean, if we're talking like, nuts and bolts on, hey, when you say a compact articulating loader, they start off, around 2,700 pounds on the smaller side, and they max out around 4,500 pounds. It depends on the weight kits you put on there. And those machines can perform similar tasks to mini track loaders, or even on the larger side, to full size machines, which, as you know, can weigh, upwards of close to 10,000 pounds, right? So
Yeah.
when people are trying to get into small spaces, they're in, residential areas, as well as, towing multiple pieces of equipment, thinking about landscapers specifically, they might have a mower on there, they might have hand tools, right? And so being able to complement their existing lineup with something that is maybe a little more nimble and a little bit lighter, while also still being able to perform, the same critical tasks that a full size loader, or even a mini skid steer or a mini track loader rather, can do, really adds a lot of value and showcases the capabilities of these compact articulating loaders.
Now you guys have a four model lineup of compact articulated loaders at Vermeer. Before we get into those four models specifically and maybe how they differ, who they're maybe the different kind of like capacities and stuff and who those are aimed at, could you kind of give me an idea of kind of like within Vermeer, like what you guys see as kind of like the most important aspects of these machines to really kind of focus on and innovate with, and kind of like what your overall kind of like direction and mission with these machines, like what are you guys trying to provide more than anything else with a Vermeer branded compact articulated loader is?
For sure. So I would, when you think of Vermeer, I'd like to point us to our history. Gary Vermeer was the founder of the stump cutter, right? So we've had our roots in the tree care space for a very, very long time. And so being a total solutions provider, someone that can move from, a stump cutter, a brush chipper, or compact articulating loader, we want to be able to provide that solution for tree care contractors as well as landscape contractors, no matter what that machine is. So being able to have something that can easily tie into our existing customers' businesses that can provide a solution is something that's important to us. So did I answer your question there, Wayne, or did I miss a piece of it?
No, yeah, I mean, it sounds kind of like, basically you want this machine to be able to work with their, fit into their existing business. And to me, that what that would kind of imply too would be their existing maybe tools that they've invested in, but then also kind of like being able to like move back and forth between like a loader like this and maybe like another Vermeer branded machine, like one of the mini track loaders, or something else. Is that kind of, is that right?
Yeah. So like a machine that can work alongside, right? Like maybe a chipper, whether that's feeding material into a chipper or cleaning up, debris from a stump cutter, or, could be even helping do hardscape installs or material handling around a job site. So it's really meant to complement those other machines, but it can also be a tool that can help expand customers' existing businesses. So, we'll use one attachment, for example, but let's say a customer has a dedicated trencher or vibratory plow unit right now where they're doing, installations with those pieces of equipment. A compact articulating loader can do those same jobs and also provide other solutions, right? Whether that's material handling, stump cutter attachment, digging, right? So it can help expand the customer's ability to do more work, to be more productive, without having to, continue to add individual pieces of equipment to their fleet. So that's, yeah. Does that kind of tie into the
Yeah.
question you were after there, Wayne?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, just trying to get an idea of kind of like when you guys are designing these things, kind of like what is kind of like the North Star that you're kind of keeping in mind in terms of like, we want to create a machine that, fits this category, but
Mm-hmm.
also that serves what a Vermeer customer is kind of like specifically what they're looking for out of a machine in this category. So,
For sure. Yeah, our North Star has been and will always be, tree care contractors and landscape contractors in this space. And, a big part of our mission is making sure that we are staying close to what those customers' challenges are and what solutions they're looking for in the marketplace. So with the compact articulating loader being able to offer multiple solutions on a job site, it was a real natural fit to add to our lineup, which we've, already talked about the other machines that we have in our lineup. So we were really, really pleased to bring these on board, and they're really out there in the field helping solve problems for our existing and new, quite frankly, new tree care and landscape customers.
yeah, no, absolutely. And you guys, like I said, you have four models in this lineup, but they they kind of look like they fit into two different buckets here. You've got like the smaller ones that are 25 horsepower machines, and then the two larger ones that are 57 horsepower machines. Take us through this lineup
Yep.
and each of the four models, and kind of give us an idea of how they differ from one another, and how you're seeing kind of like, I guess, like customer use or application kind of divvy these up, and where they kind of fit in, and like the types of jobs, and why you might consider the 530, and when you might want to start considering the 720 versus the 850 and the 960.
Yeah, well, you said that well. You can kind of break them up into two buckets there based on the horsepower. So yeah, the ATX 530, our entry model, it's a 25 horsepower unit. It's got around 1,400 pounds lift capacity, and it's also our most compact machine of the lineup, right? So it's not only an entry level from a a price point standpoint and a capability, but also from a compact footprint. So for people who are in bigger cities, they're concerned about the size of job sites or the area that they have to work in. It's a great solution there. It also has really good hydraulic performance. So it can perform really well with those hydraulic attachments that need to continuously run. Think about like a trencher, um, trenchers. You've got brush mowers, things of that nature that need to continually run and have hydraulic flow. The 530s do exceptionally well. And then the ATX 720, its bigger brother, is a 25 horsepower unit. It has a little bit more lift capacity, right around 2,000 pounds. It doesn't have the same hydraulic capabilities that a 530 does. It's really geared towards, material handling, moving, whether it's, pallets of sod or trees or, landscape material around an orchard or yard. That's really where the ATX 720 shines. And then you step into the ATX 850, 960, which are larger in size, right, both in length and width. So you can still, because of the turning radius on them, you can still get them into pretty tight areas, but they are physically larger machines, right, than like a 530, for example, where you could still probably get an ATX 530 into a lot of different backyard scenarios. The larger machines, although they are compact, they are larger, right? So you're typically not going to get an ATX 850 or 960 into someone's backyard. 850, excuse me, before I jump to the 960, where it shines is that machine can go approximately 16 miles an hour. So transporting material on a job site, it can move material very quickly, or job sites that are, very, very vast, where you're maybe moving trees from one side of an earth tree to another, right? It can be something that you take to a customer's job site, but also use in your yard. And that's where that machine shines. It can lift right around 3,000 pounds, depending upon the weight kit that you put on the back of that machine. And then the largest machine in our lineup, the ATX 960, that machine, again, a little bit bigger footprint than the ATX 850. That machine can also go approximately 16 miles an hour and lift just over 3,600 pounds, again, depending upon the weight kit and configuration you put on there. And both the 850 and 960, we do have air conditioning and heated cabs as an option. So that's another solution there, right? Like when we talked a little bit about mini track loaders to start off this conversation, some people don't want to stand all day, right? Or some companies, they don't want their operators standing, right? So it's an opportunity for operators to sit down, be comfortable, have heat or air, depending upon the climate that you're in, and be able to operate comfortably.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like to me it's kind of cool to see each model in the lineup kind of distinguish itself as much as these do from each other. I mean, to me, it kind of demonstrates like all right, we're gonna have this model that really excels at like guys that want to do this, and then we're gonna have this model for like maybe they just want to do load and carry, and they're not going to use tools as much as they can. But load and carry is important, so it needs to have a higher weight capacity. And then we're gonna so like each four of these, like they're what I take away from what you're kind of like tour through that lineup there is that they're all different. These are all four of these are different machines. A lot of times, like when you get into the middle of like a machine lineup, it's kind of like it kind of progresses pretty predictably. It's kind of like, well, this is the smallest one and it doesn't lift very much, and then this is the medium one and it doesn't lift the most, but it doesn't lift the least, and this doesn't really progress that way. It kind of does in some of those ways, but then I think you guys are using the footprints and the design and kind of like the capabilities of the machine to kind of like naturally lead it to kind of like what it specializes in. So I guess my follow-up question there is, like when you're looking at the lineup and then you have a customer and they're kind of like, Honestly, I don't know what I kind of really need, but how do you kind of like help them make sense of without kind of like, well, let's look at the lift capacity, let's look at this spec chart, and then we'll kind of like try to trace our line through kind of like all the things that you need. How do you kind of, how do you guys kind of approach that from like guiding the customer to, or what's the simplified version of like, if you're doing this, then you need the 720, and if you're doing this, you need the 530. Could you kind of like tie it directly to the task for me?
Yeah, so I think you're kind of hitting at it there, Wayne. I think when we're trying to provide the correct solution for the customer, I think the biggest thing is that Vermeer really tries to do is we're really trying to ask as many qualifying questions as we can to understand that customer's business because Vermeer is not in business to be transactional. We're a relationship selling company. We truly want to build relationships with customers that are going to last, right? So making sure that our salespeople that are interacting with our customers are really trying to understand, what problem customers trying to solve, or also what type of value is the customer looking for us to add, so we can really tailor, to your point, the 530 or the 720, right? Now they're both compact articulating loaders, but they can provide different solutions based on the problems that a customer is trying to overcome. So we really try and tailor, the machine to, the information that we find out and asking those questions with customers. I also want to, also mention that, seeing is believing, experiencing the machines, hands-on can be an extremely helpful tool. And that's something that, our dealership network here in North America does an exceptional job of is, if a customer really is, well, if a customer's really torn between, hey, it's 720 or should I make the step up to an 850, right? That's a bigger machine. Not sure if that's going to work, at my nursery or on the job site. We'll bring machines out to the job site or the nursery or wherever and give customers the opportunity to try those things hands-on so they can experience, what it's like between the different models in the lineup.
Nice. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I mean, and like you said, the relationship aspect of that is big. I think what I appreciate the most about this lineup though is that there's clear thought in terms of distinguishing the models from just like small, medium, large, extra large, and using kind of like those footprints and capabilities to kind of like an advantage in terms of like where it might specialize or shine. Because I think getting into kind of like the mode where you're just talking about what's the most powerful, it's not really, power is not everything. A lot of times it's footprint, like you mentioned. A lot of times it's kind of hydraulic capability, and a lot of times it's about like, can I get this machine into the right space or not? And sometimes it's a combination of those two, and you never really know kind of like what exactly that's going to be. Which of these four models is there like a clear standout in terms of like which one is the most popular for you guys?
That's a great question, and I can honestly say that it's pretty balanced.
Okay.
When you look at the market as a whole, 25 horsepower class is by far the lion's share of the overall market, whether you're talking landscape or tree care. But the 850 is also a very good seller for us as well. I'd say it's a looking at the data for us, it's a pretty close tie between the ATX 530, 720 are really, really close to each other, and the 850 is a pretty close third to those models. The 960 is a great machine, right? It's just a lot bigger machine, and so you kind of step into a whole other category there of what people are trying to do with that machine versus the other three.
Is the 25 category? Do you feel like that's the most popular within those three, just because those are the smaller machines and they can get into kind of some of the smaller spaces that the others, and it sounds, or maybe the other conclusion to draw from that would be that those kind of hit the spot of kind of like we were talking about the stand on or the mini track loaders earlier, and it's kind of like that sweet spot for those definitely seems to be like how small can you get it with 1,000 pounds of lift capacity. All of these machines have 1,400 pounds of lift capacity or greater, so they hit that price point, or they hit that kind of like spec point. And then it's kind of like the fact that it's the smaller machines are the more popular ones. Do you think it's because of that smaller footprint? They've got enough capability, and then it's kind of like, can I get these into small spaces? And I don't want to sacrifice small size for too much power when I don't necessarily need it, or being able to run more attachments, right?
Yeah, I think that, you kind of talk a little bit there about the, what people are looking to do. Because, yeah, we do have a lot of customers that come over from mini track loaders, or even like we talked about earlier, like full size loader, right? So certainly that compact footprint and then its capabilities, its lift to weight ratio, like we talked about earlier, and you were hitting on, its lifting capabilities are extremely important. So I think that 25 horsepower class is a sweet spot, because you get, a large percentage of what you need to do on a job site out of a 25 horsepower machine for most landscape contractors, hardscape contractors, and even tree customers as well, tree care contractors. And so it's a great way to start, in the compact articulating loader market, is to get in at that 25 horsepower class. And then, if you're getting into bigger projects, your business is growing, or you see a need for, a machine that can go faster or that can lift higher, then people can, often step into the 850 or the 960. Or if that customer has again, like we talked about, qualifying and understanding what problem they're trying to solve. If that customer says, hey, I really need to, move material from, a pretty long distance from point A to point B, it's a quarter mile, right? Speed's really going to play a big factor if they're really transporting a lot of material. So that's where, you'd maybe steer someone into a slightly larger machine that has faster transport speed, which is ultimately going to make them more productive on those job sites.
Yeah, and I know another big kind of like major trend that manufacturers of the mini track loaders have seen, right, is like what you mentioned there, starting with the sweet spot machine, and a lot of times it's like, I know for some manufacturers maybe it was even less than the sweet spot machine, so maybe around the 500, 700 pound lift capacity on those stand-on machines, or the 1,000 pound. But most of the time when they start there and they use those machines, they find situations where they're kind of like, oh, man, another 500 or 1,000 pounds of lift capacity on this job would have really saved my butt. And so they're starting to see the kind of like appeal to the 2,000 pound lift capacity machines. Have you guys kind of seen a similar trend here once they get started with like maybe one of the smaller or kind of like maybe less powerful machines, that they do find more of those? Or has this category maybe not matured to the point of like the stand on? How would you kind of characterize that?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head with, the history of the stand on, kind of where, you're exactly right. If we go back 10 years, 15 years ago, 600 pounds was kind of the standard. Right now it's 1,000 pounds, right? It's typically the entry level 25 horsepower unit. The compact articulating loaders are really, I would say, ahead in the development cycle compared to where the mini skid steers were. Excuse me, the mini track loaders, mini skid steers were 10 years ago, in that they do have 1,400 pound capacity out of the gate there. So, I mean, we do have some customers that are going to start at the entry level part of that lineup and work their way up. But there are a large percentage of customers that find, hey, this compact articulating loader can do more in some cases than what my 1,000 horsepower mini track loader can do, right?
Okay.
So it's already, in some cases, depending upon, the application, what model we're talking about, it already is a step up in capability compared to their mini track loader. Now, the people that are coming down from a full size, that's a little bit different story, right? But the people who are coming in from that stand-on unit, certainly it's already kind of a step up, even when you're, in the same horsepower class.
Right, but do you see people kind of similar to the track loader, not necessarily moving? That is interesting, though, that there are maybe some customers who have seen the benefits of the track loader, and then they kind of like move over to the compact articulated loader, and they're seeing kind of like, oh, these could kind of work together, or maybe this is the better machine for. Do you just kind of within the compact articulate? Do you see that similar kind of like they start with a small compact articulated loader, and then eventually, or maybe inevitably, move up to a larger one? Or is this more of like a refined and kind of like because of the lineup being what it is, it's more like, no, like the smaller ones have enough capability, and so they don't really need more lift capacity, and they're more focused on kind of like the keeping it small, I guess is what I'm asking. Do you see that trend toward more powerful machines within this category, similar to how it's played out in the old category?
For sure. Like I think the mini track loaders have been progressing that way, from smaller to larger capacity. And this kind of fits well into that trajectory, right? Because the 25 horsepower unit, whether it's an ATX 530 or an ATX 720, you're getting that 1,400 to 2,000 pound capacity, which is already exceeds a lot of people's experiences with a 500 pound, 1,000 pound capacity mini track loader. So it's kind of following along in the trajectory. It's just a little bit, I'd say, ahead of where the mini track loaders were maybe 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, well, and like the nature of the machine too. I mean, it's like inherently it's going to be a little bit larger than the stand on. I mean, they're just such different machines. But in a lot of ways, they're kind of like on this like same kind of trend level in the industry in terms of growing adoption and kind of people discovering them in a lot of ways for the first time and kind of like seeing like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't never really see the point in this tiny little machine that can only lift like 500 pounds, but like now they can lift 1,000, and some of them can lift 2 and 3,000. Obviously, the more powerful they get, the larger they get. But it's definitely interesting kind of seeing these two kind of like rise in the compact industry at the same time right now. Going back to kind of like thinking about like the lineup of machines that you guys have. And how you guys are developing this lineup and moving forward. We've already kind of talked about like the history of the segment and kind of like how you guys are designing these machines specifically, definitely with your core customer class in mind when it comes to the load and carry, the tree care, and the landscaping professionals in mind. The combination of size, versatility, you can put a tool on it. They've got ample lifting power. That's definitely where these machines really shine. But what are we looking? Could you kind of give us an idea of what we are? If we're just going to focus on the tool carrier aspect of it, and you want to use it as a trencher, or you want to put like some other kind of tool on it that you're going to be getting a lot of use, like a brush or something like that, snow blower. What are we looking at in terms of the Vermeer lineup? In terms of like what you would recommend if you've got like specific use cases that you're looking to get out of it, which of these kind of maybe lends itself more to the hydraulic capabilities? We already talked about like the 720, even though it's larger than the 530, it actually has less hydraulic capability because it's more focused on like a load and carry type situation. How would you kind of characterize the lineup in terms of hydraulic capacity and, talking to customers to help them kind of figure out which of these is better as kind of like a tool carrier, and what kind of tools are you guys seeing used with these machines most often?
Okay. Lots of great questions unpacked there, Wayne. I would start us off in kind of like two different buckets. So we could look at the 25 horsepower class and then the 57 horsepower class. So as far as what types of attachments, what applications people are successful in, if we start with the ATX 530, the 25 horsepower unit, it has ample hydraulic capability, around 15 gallons per minute on the high flow side, compared to the ATX 720, which has just over 9. So, when we're talking about what attachments people can be successful with, of course, it can, handle material if you're trying to pick up pallets of things or drag brush. It can certainly handle those jobs. Jobs that require a compact footprint where you still need continuously running hydraulic flow, and whether that's, vibratory plow or a trencher, things of that nature, the 530 is going to, outshine the 820, which the ATX 720, against just a touch larger machine, it might be able to load and carry, I think is the term you used, heavier material, but it's not going to have the same hydraulic capabilities if you're going to be doing a lot of ground engaging jobs, right? Like I mentioned, vibratory plow, trencher, things of that nature. The machine that has more hydraulic capability, the ATX 530, would probably outshine the 720 in those specific applications. Does that kind of highlight what you're looking for there, Wayne, or should we talk about dive a little bit deeper there?
Yeah, like how does that kind of same situation kind of shake out on the 850 and the 960? It sounds like they have pretty similar hydraulic capabilities and they're larger machines. Do you guys see people going for the larger machines if they're going to be using, if this is primarily a tool carrier machine for them? Like you said, the ground engaging jobs like the trenchers and stuff like that. If when customers kind of come to you guys for one of these machines and their plan is to use attachments with it, are they going for the larger machines, or is the 530 enough for them in a lot of circumstances?
Yeah, I think the 530 does a great job of covering a lot of different types of jobs. Again, whether that's like a trenching job or a material handling job, it can really do an exceptional job in multiple different categories. When we talk about like the qualifying questions and trying to understand what's important to a customer, if a customer is going to be lifting up, full pallets of sod, right, or pallets of brick, things that are in that 3,000 or 2,500, 3,500 pound, class of material handling, that's where you would look to step that customer into an 850 or a 960, or if that customer is looking to move material long distances where that speed's going to play a factor. Also applications, if you think about like golf courses, for example, right? A lot of times landscapers or people who are maintaining golf courses have to cover great distances with that equipment. You're not going to typically trailer your machine from hole 1 to hole 6, right? You might be working along the different holes on the course, so that can be a helpful tool as well when you're trying to get from point A to point B and cover a lot of ground. Those larger machines do a great job of doing that without disturbing the turf. So that's, again, we hit on that a little bit, but that's something that carries across the lineup. It would just be a customer's choice on what type of tires they want to put on their ATX 530, 720, 850, or 960.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What are some of the more popular tools that you guys are seeing used with these machines in terms of attachments?
Yeah, I mean, you have your standard attachments. Bucket and forks are always going to be at the top of the list. Trenchers, grapples, different forms of brush grapples are very, very popular for handling different types of material. And then also we're seeing, quite a bit of popularity with the plows, right? Like there's a lot of, when we take a step back from the tree care and landscape, hardscape specifically, there's a lot of different utility installations that are going on across the country right now, whether that's, from the street to people's house, middle mile projects, things of that nature, where larger companies, utility companies, or even large utility contractors are looking for solutions, and compact articulating loaders can provide solutions in those applications as well.
One of the things with this category, obviously, too, and we've been talking about this a lot, though, is kind of like that balance of capability with size, and especially how like important in certain situations, like keeping the machine small is going to be for certain customers. But one of the obviously the limiting factors here is like if you start making them too big, they start to lose their kind of whole purpose for being. So because it is a small canvas to kind of innovate with, right? Like to add features to and to kind of like really like make your mark on. I mean, it's 4 wheels and then an operator station and an attachment system. So, what are you guys kind of doing? Like, what kind of challenges does that present you guys with in terms of innovating? And so, what are you guys trying to do to really differentiate the Vermeer compact articulated loader from competing models?
I think I hit on this a little bit when we started off. We want to be a total solutions provider. So that's something that, compact articulating loaders are certainly a big part of our lineup, right? When it comes to the tree care industry and the landscape industry. And that's one thing that when we talk about the value of Vermeer, we truly believe here when you buy a piece of Vermeer equipment, you buy a piece of our culture. And, we want to really partner with people who are in the trenches, who are in the tree care industry, the landscape industry, and who are trying to solve multiple problems, trying to deliver quality finished products to their customers, right? And so that's one of the ways that I think that we really stand out when you talk about brand X or brand Y compared to who Vermeer is, and why someone would want to choose Vermeer over another brand is we do offer complete solutions for people in the tree care industry and the landscape industry, where it's not to talk bad about the competition whatsoever, because we have fierce competition, really good competitors, but they really can't match us when it comes to who we are, the machines we build, and the solutions that we provide. So that's probably from a macro perspective, Wayne, how I'd say how Vermeer differentiates us from the competition. If we could certainly get granular here too, if we wanted to talk about certain features of a ATX 530 versus a competitive machine. If you want, I don't know if that's what you're looking for, or the viewers are looking for, we can certainly do that. Just to follow your lead on that one.
Yeah, I mean, if anything pops to mind in terms of the specific models and how you guys kind of like see the lineup as clearly better in specific ways, like yeah, let's what's some of the stuff that pops into mind for you?
Yeah, so a couple things that pop into mind. I talked about our lift to weight ratio, and that's something that goes across the lineup. So that's one thing that if you look at our compact articulating loader versus, again, I won't say any brands, brand X or brand Y, our lift to weight ratio really sets us apart. Our control station and how the machine functions is the same in a 530 compared to a 728, 50, 960. There are, of course, different options you can add or remove, right? But holistically, to our conversation earlier on, hey, if someone starts off in a 530 and they want to move up to a 960, the controls are very, very similar, right? So as far as, training operators, making sure that they feel comfortable and confident in those machines, it's a very, very, seamless transition. And then lastly, another thing that really stands out for people who are, really trying to get into the nuts and bolts is our H-style boom. There's tons of different style booms out there, but the H-style boom is very, very durable and rigid and helps stand up to the multitude of different job cases that we talked about, right? Whether it's material handling, ground engaging, the booms on these machines is where a lot of wear and tear takes place. They certainly take a beating. And so making sure that that is a very, very robust design. And that's something, again, that goes across the lineup, whether you're getting ATX 530 or 960, you're getting that same level of design, focus, and quality to make sure that we're delivering that productive product for our customers.
Awesome. Okay. Good deal, man. Well, Trevor, thank you so much for hopping on and joining us today to take us through the Vermeer compact articulated loader lineup. Really, really appreciate it. Let everybody know if they want more information on this lineup, how they can get it.
Yeah, highly encourage everyone. Check out Vermeer.com. We have tons of great, videos and spec sheets, data. I know we didn't get too much into the trenches today, but people want to find out more, go check out Vermeer.com or reach out to your local Vermeer dealer. We'd love to, show you these machines and show you what they're capable of and provide solutions for you all in the tree care and landscape communities.
Awesome. Trevor, thank you again so much, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Wayne. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a good one, man.
You too. Bye.